So, Dr. Julie, got a question for you.
Okay.
I am wearing green this week.
Mhm.
You wore green last week. So the real question is who wore it better? That's the question, right? How does it look?
I don't know. I got a green color on again today.
Yeah, but how do I look?
You look good.
Yeah, not just fine.
Well, maybe just fine.
Maybe just fine. See, that's it. So the title of today's podcast is Just Fine. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Pediatric Podcast. I am your host, the Bowtie Chiropractor, Dr. Skip Wyss, and I am here with the one and only Dr. Julie, the Mama Phoenix, Dr. Fairy Fingers, Rapunzel, the Master of Disaster, the Queen of Smiles, the Queen of Robotic Hugs, Dr. Julie. Hey baby, how are you?
Just fine.
Just fine. So today we're talking about just fine, and I think that that's something that resonates through everybody's family, through everybody's child, especially dealing in those hard teenage years, is the just fines, right?
I think it's in marriage as well.
You think it's just fine as in marriage? Well,
How
listen,
you doing? Fine.
Fine, but who says that more in our marriage, me or you?
Probably me.
Yeah. So what does fine mean to you? When somebody says to you, I'm doing just fine, does that mean they're okay? Does that mean they're not okay? Does that mean to you that possibly there could be something wrong? Like, how do you read that? I think that's one of the most difficult things in a marriage and in a family is what just fine means.
Well, I think it comes down to, are they just being robotic in that they really maybe don't think that you truly want to hear what's going on? And just like it's, if you're at the grocery store and you say, hello, if somebody asks like, how are you? And you usually just say, I'm fine, because you really don't want to start a conversation. And do you really want to hear that conversation if somebody actually starts telling you how they really feel?
Well, that's true. Like, is somebody like when you ask them like how their day is, do you really care? Like, that's a question, right? I actually truthfully do care. Everybody that comes in and I ask them how their day is, I really want to know. If I don't want to know how your day is, I don't ask.
Right.
Right. But I think fine has something going for it. Like if you put fine in front of dining,
or wine.
Yeah, fine wine, fine dining. I mean that brings it up a level, right?
It can, yes.
Okay, but if somebody asks you that, if somebody just tells you that they're just fine, that immediately tells me in my mind that there could be something wrong. There could be underlying things in business, life, and in their family. So let's dive into business first. So this is a business, family, marriage podcast. Let's dive into business first. When somebody tells you that their business is doing just fine, does that usually mean that there's room for improvement? Does that usually mean that there's a door open there to make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
How would you go about that then?
Well, I mean, I look at our business, and I don't want our business to be just fine, because everybody can be just fine.
Right.
And so I think when it comes to business, if it's fine, maybe that person or maybe that business doesn't know what pillars or what things to build their business off of, or what metrics to look at, what maybe they are looking at for comparables. Maybe they don't understand. They just think that business is fine because they don't actually know what part of the business you're actually asking the question about.
Okay, so business, so fine is kind of a level of comfort.
That would be good.
Their comfort, status quo, like that's nothing that we ever want to be in. And I think a lot of people out there, patients that listen to us, are wonderful practice members, and even service providers, chiropractors that are out there listening to us. Like, one of the biggest things that we look at when people ask us is they'll say, you guys are always super busy. Like, you're starting this business or you're starting that business, or imagine that you're doing that now. But we don't like to be just fine and comfortable. Because comfort, according to David Steck, who's a good friend of ours and mentor, that comfort is the actual greatest thief in life, correct?
Agreed.
So when a doc tells you, I think when service providers tell you that their business is just fine, I think it's a level of comfort. I think they're comfortable.
And it's okay to get to a certain point where your business feels like it's just doing the everyday thing. That's That's good
Yes.
to
Yeah.
a point. That
Like
would be
the normal grind. Like
correct.
the wheels and the cogs are spinning together. Nothing's hicking up. There's no hiccups. There's no hitch in the
Correct.
system.
But if you want your business to be long term, if you want longevity, if you want to see multiples or you want to see, financial gain, if you want to see success, you can't live in a state of fine. That
No.
is your business is always going to be changing, it's going to be growing, there's going to be some stumbling blocks, but then you're going to get to a certain point where everything feels like it's going on all cylinders and it becomes every day. That's fine. But you can't sit in that comfort zone.
I agree with you, because even like the only time I like being comfortable is when I'm snuggled up next to you, right? And that's because Dr. Julie's love language is touch.
Oh,
It's not at all. It's active services and gifts and
yours is touch.
yeah, mine's touch. I think most men's out there is touch, right? And we can blame that on our mamas. So it comes back to our moms, right? So you just did it to Brecken, so you're actually to blame for that one too. But let's come back to this real quick. So we talk about fine in business and this level of comfort, and the area of growth actually though is when you're actually growing in business, it sits on a fine line between chaos and organization. That's actually where growth happens, and it's a very uncomfortable area because you almost feel yourself pushing into a chaotic point where you feel like you're running around, going all over, kind of, I don't want to say running down the road with your hair on fire, but there is an organized process to the chaos, right?
Agreed. Yes.
But that's actually where true growth happens, and it's an area of uncomfortability. And what I think is one of the biggest areas that makes docs really uncomfortable or service providers is raising their fees. And having that structure when it comes to business is making sure that you're getting paid for what you're actually worth and the services you're providing, but you have to be able to back that up. You can't go and charge outrageous amounts of money for your fees and not be able to back up it in service and how you're going to substantiate it, right? So now let's walk into working with our kids in teenage years, because Peyton often asks us all the time. She's like, we'll say to her, "How are you today, honey?" And she's like, "I'm fine."
How was your lunch?
It was
Fine.
fine.
How are your friends? Fine.
So is fine status quo? Like, that's the question in teenage years. Like, how do we deal with that? I think,
Well, it's asking open-ended questions.
Yes.
Instead of asking a question where it can be an answer of fine or a yes or no, there needs to be more thought into the types of questions that we're asking.
yeah,
And then as a parent, we can start the conversation of, do you want me to just listen or do you want to have input? Do you want me to have input back? And so if you can start a conversation that way, what I have found is a child will be more open to sharing if you're not going to be so quick to lend your judgment.
I'm bad at that sometimes. I really lend interesting judgment to my kids, and I need to work on that. And I think judging each other is a way of avoiding the light we can project into a child's life instead of just judging them and occasionally throwing darts at them and not saying such great words to them, when really we just need to build them up and make them as productive as possible. And like you said, like, you're really good at asking open-ended questions. And I find that Peyton then will answer a little bit better. Instead of "How was your day?" "What did you do in school today? How is this subject today? What did you guys talk about in science? What did you guys talk about in biology? What did you talk about in finance?" Like those.
Those are good
she answers,
conversations,
right? And she
yes.
lights up. Not so much how are your friends doing, but specifically, how is Bella? How is Jaden? How are they feeling about this? Yeah.
Agreed, yes.
And then I think when we work with service providers and docs out there and other people, one of the biggest things we work on in our coaching is being very direct in how we ask questions. But I find that one of the biggest things that I can say to people to help them grow is, "I would have you consider this," or "I would have you consider doing it this way."
Because you're not lending your judgment, it's a suggestion. And sometimes suggestions go a little bit further rather than saying you need to do this.
So how do you break? So now let's go into our little man, Brecken, who's 12. So he's just a ball of light. He's usually always positive for the most part, unless he's feeling like garbage. And a lot of parents out there that listen to this, you're working with these preteen years and the teen years. So with your teen years, always ask open-ended questions. That's one of the biggest things. And ask specifics, not yes or no questions, because you're going to get yes or no or "I'm fine" answers, right? So with little guy, he's 12. So what are the answers we kind of look for there? How do we communicate with Brecken? Because I think we do a really good job with him.
It's, again, listening, but being open. And I think both of our kids are two totally different kids. And I think that's sometimes a parent needs to step back and realize, do you have a creative child? Do you have an analytical child? Do you have an emotional child? And I think
What are their
that
love
really,
languages too?
yep, and that really lends to the types of questions and how you're going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
If it's somebody that is creative or somebody that's on the spectrum and all over the place, it's more of a, you need to take them into more of a quiet zone, more of a one-on-one, and just start a conversation. And then those questions can pop in there that you're maybe really looking for the answers to.
I think that also works when we're working with adults and their businesses as well, because take them into a quiet place if they're scattered all the time, get them more one-on-one, get them more focused. But with Brecken as well is seeing the light in his world all the time. Like that kid constantly, if you got a child like ours, like Brecken, he always draws smiley faces on everything. Everything is smiling. If you notice that in kids, the light is so much different in them. I'd say that that Christ is so much different in a child because they're very, very self-focused. So how do we, let's talk about our family now. How do we bring light into our family and keep the positivity there, the levity there, the love there?
That has to start as the head of the household, I think.
Yeah, it starts with me.
I think it starts at the head of the household. But I think it's also like our kids are always watching.
Mm-hmm.
And so for spouses, it's how you interact with each other. It's the language that you use between each other. It's the touch that you would put in there. It's, you know, are you doing little different things like you do the dishes, like you see the dishes sitting there, that lends stress to me. And so as you do that, that allows stress to come off of me. So the kids, maybe at some point they'll pick up on that.
I do the dishes and most of the time the laundry. But what I just figured out, you like folding laundry.
Except for the socks.
Except you don't like doing socks and underwear, which is fine. I can handle that. I actually like when I do socks. This is a little anal with me. Is I try to speed up myself. I like have a little race as to how many socks can I see in the basket that I can match with my eyes while like folding the other one. Do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was magical. Like I dream in color. Like
I dream in color now
yeah,
too.
Lucky you. You're so special. But with bringing that head of household back into now, a lot of the times it's frowned upon when somebody says, you know, as a man, I'm the head of the household. I think it's the area of being the leader in your house, but more importantly is how are you going to lead your children through life? How are you going to set an example for your son and set an example for your daughter and what your daughter should expect to have out of somebody that's going to love and care for her and the things that they're going to say to them that are positive, the things that they're going to say to them that are going to build them up and always talk to them in that way. Peyton, I love calling Peyton beautiful because she's beautiful. My daughter is very pretty, but I like telling her she's beautiful, and it's not a vain thing. Peyton's beautiful inside and out, just like you. But I want her to know that. I want her to know how wonderful she is. Same thing with Brecken. And highlight their attributes that make them successful. Highlight their gifts that God's given them. Peyton's incredibly intelligent. Peyton's an amazing writer. Peyton writes out things that I can't even dream of putting onto paper. Brecken designs things and he puts things together that my brain can't even go around. But more importantly is highlighting them attributes, but then leading by example. So what's one of the things I do with Brecken all the time? I make him get the door for you. I used to do that all the time. And now he just does it on his own. He gets the door for everyone. And it's so important because getting the door for somebody, it goes back to taking a process away from someone and allowing them to come into an environment that you're inviting them to. That's the whole point of opening a door for somebody. It's not just getting it for them to help them with the groceries or help them because the door is heavy. Like, that's great. But it's inviting them into the area that you're at. So whether I metaphorically get the door for you by asking you a question, or what does that mean? Or if I get the door for you, it's inviting you into my space. It's inviting you into somewhere that I want to go, that I want you. I'm going to take you along with me. Brecken doesn't quite understand that yet, but guys out there and ladies trying to teach your kids this is get the door. And ladies, expect to get the door. Expect for somebody to get the door for you. And if they don't, and be okay with it. Like, it's not an area, like, do you see it as a thing of defeminization if a guy gets a door for you?
No, I step back because I think that's what's missing in our culture is some of that. It's chivalry, or if it's the respect to it, but it's also of I want that to be passed down to our children again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other side of it is shaking a hand. Like, that's another thing too, is teach your children how to shake hands. And I know that this sounds old world and that this doesn't matter, but trust me, it matters. It matters. Shake hands, make eye contact. Don't break their stinking wrist, okay? but have a good firm handshake. The reason why is it sets the tone to a conversation. It's not a mean thing either. You're inviting them into yourself. You're inviting them into your world, and they should be able to invite you back. Also, a lot tells you from a handshake. If somebody shakes your hand incredibly soft, weak, and timid,
Floppy
and kind of
fish.
floppy, or like it's all clammy and stuff, like it's disgusting, something's going on with that person anxiety-wise, that they don't believe in themselves. And the person that comes up to you and like shatters your hand, they're trying to dominate a conversation. Dom Fawcett talks about this all the time, and he's going to be on this podcast shortly, is demand presence, command presence. But that doesn't mean command presence as being the only person in the room to stand out. It means command presence that you're there, you acknowledge everybody else that's there, and you hold them on the exact same level of yourself. And when I'm with you, you do an amazing job of commanding presence. How do you do it?
I don't know. I show up.
I think you're unwavering. Like you stand in your truth, you stand in your faith, and you don't waver from the opinions you have.
Well, for me, time is important, and so if I'm going to be
Yeah,
going,
time is-
if I'm going to be going to an event, if I'm going to be going to a meeting, if I'm going to be, investing my time into something, I'm going to make sure that I show up and I do what needs to be done, or if it's there for a party, I am fully present when I am there. Because otherwise somebody else is missing out on something, or I'm missing out on family time, I'm missing out on me time. And so when I'm at something, I'm fully present.
You are, and that's the most amazing thing. I think you're fully present all the time with me. I know you think at times I'm not fully present with you, but I have the ability to multitask in the fact that somebody can be talking to me and this drives you absolutely crazy, because Peyton does the same thing. It's I cannot be looking at you but still be hearing everything you're saying and repeat back. And I'm listening. My eyes might be looking at something else. It's just this is the way it happens. All right, but that you can see everybody can see your face right now. It's like okay. So let's talk on now. How can we spread some light into this world of a little bit of darkness? We talked about it today. Pastor Chad Elfie actually hit on it today in church, and this is something that I had wrote down that I wanted to talk to you about. Is being present. You are the Mama Phoenix. You have basically risen from the ashes, reinvented yourself several times, and now help moms do it all the time. But where is an area that you feel that you really bring light into a person's day? What do you do?
Fully connect. I think if we talk about our clinic, I like to say that our clinic is a no judgment zone. And so just with the types of patients that we see, with it being lots of pregnancy, there's lots of postpartum, there's lots of depression, there's just people in general, it could be men as well, that I think there's just so much stressors that people are going through in their life, their family, their business, that at least when they are able to walk in through our doors, that again, there's no judgment. I don't know. Sometimes I can sense when somebody and I'm not a hugging person.
You're not a hugger.
But if I go in for a hug, I know that like they're needing something. And sometimes it's not even a conversation. It's just, a touch on the arm. If it's just a smile, sometimes it's okay, let's go in the door next door and let's go have a conversation.
Being able to read that person. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's what makes you amazing, is your ability to read. And those of you out there that seem to struggle with reading a person and understanding like how they think or just reading them, you can feel them. You can feel their energy. If you're present with them and you're present with them being in front of you, you can feel that energy. You can see how they're doing. You can at times you can almost taste it. Like when people come in and they're really anxious, man, you can feel them get out of their car. You can feel them in the waiting room, in the parking lot, hell, turn into our office. I can feel what's going on with that patient and know it's there. But also, you can feel it from an energy as well by putting your hand on them, feeling what's going on. But that means it's your state of mind. Your presence has to be there as well, because if it's not positive, you can immediately change that person and reroute their day because you're having a crap day. You can put your energy back on them. And that's where I find it that I have to center myself a lot. And I give a lot of thanks all day to God and to Christ for allowing me to be where I am, for giving me the gifts that I have, and for teaching me the lessons that I know I'm going to learn that day. And I think that's huge because that allows me to continually try to bring light into the world. And when I open myself up in the morning every day at 5:15 when I'm up, I thank God for my day immediately. And it changes everything. In fact, I remember about 5-6 months ago, I was in a really rough headspace. I came back into the office. I came back into our back office and I looked at you and you're like, what are you doing? I sat down and I said, I got to get my head right. It's just something's off. So I just started saying thank you and thanking God for my day, thanking Jesus for my day, thanking him for the lessons that I'm going to learn, thanking him for the patients that were going to come in, and thanking him for the life that he has given me. And all of a sudden, this massive epiphany came that I can just shed light onto everybody that's in front of me and make them feel amazing, which is what I do. And then all of a sudden, the day opens up and people start asking questions that flow with me instead of go against me. And
it's the flow, it's the energy. And I think that's which is really cool what we get to do every day. I mean, we see so many moms, so many couples, and sometimes it's us the first time laying our hands on them and saying, has your period been regular? Are you sure you're not pregnant? And then them coming back, if it's a week later, if it's later on in the week, and them saying, how did you know I'm pregnant? But that you have to have the energy, you have to be open to that, and you have to be able to be not thinking about your things. Like when we talk with our team, we say, leave everything out in the parking lot, leave everything outside, because the things that we need to accomplish, the things that we need to do in our day can't be held back by our stressors and our concerns that we have.
And that's a hard thing to do at times. It's hard. And you all know this out there too, as parents, as business owners, as service professionals. That's hard at times because things just get difficult. But remember, the person that's in front of you, whether it's your child, your spouse, whether it's the patient or the practice member or the person you're serving, they care about you, but they care that you care about them. And you can give that to them without taking your energy away, but just passing along to them the days of positive thoughts, the love and the appreciation you have for them being in your life, I think is huge. I really do. This has been a good one. And remember, a couple things to take away from this though is that fine's okay if it's in front of wine, dining, fine linens, fine bed sheets. China. My grandpa used to say fine as frog's hair, because that meant he was doing really good. But it's also okay to just be okay at times. That's different. Everything's okay. You put that in front of Doke, you really got something as well.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, exactly. But these are the things, and I hope that this helps you with your family and with your business as well, as to continue to shed light onto people. You don't have to be over the top. You don't have to be, everything's great, everything's good, God is good. Like, those are just catchphrases. But the real question is on the days that you're not doing well, can you find an ability to light in the darkness, that little small piercing of light that's there for you to make your day bright and illuminate on people and allow them that day. Take the time to talk. Take the time to listen. Take the time to tell somebody that their smile is actually beautiful, because everybody has a beautiful smile. Everybody does. Because the smile changes everything. That's why there's less muscles to smile than there is to frown. Right? Right? So, Dr. Julie, this was a really, really good one.
It was fine.
It was not fine. You're fine. All right, everybody. Take care. Go out there. Get it done. Get into YouTube. Head on over. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing. Smash that little like button. Smash the share button. In fact, we've been getting so many comments in the last couple weeks since we've started this amazing format. It's been uncanny. Remember, I've been doing this for 4 years, and now I've got Dr. Julie with us. And people have been blowing us up like crazy that they absolutely love it. So be sure to share it with everybody that you know. Allow us to bring a little light into your lives and everybody else. We are truly grateful for you. Now go out there, get it done. Take care, everybody. Bye.